I can't hear.
Anything.
No, you're good.
Good afternoon and welcome to the regular meeting of council for Tuesday, August 24th, 2021. It's about 2:05 and we're in council chambers. Mayor McCordoff is away on vacation and I'm sitting in the mayor chair today. And we have full council here and Brian Harvey is joining us through Zoom right now. I'll call the meeting to order. First thing on the agenda is approval of the agenda, and we have a couple of late items that we'd like to add to it. First one being a letter of support for the Cio Bike Club. And I'm going to have to ask what item that will be on our agenda.
It's item, I believe, J3.
That'll be item J3. In addition to that, we are looking to add a, you're gonna have to bear with me. So this is the actual wording that I should be reading, I guess. So, but the regular open agenda of August 24th, 21 be approved as amended with the insert.
With a letter of support for the Cio Bike Club.
Yeah, with a letter of support from the Cio Bike Club. Be added as item 3 under J, and staff reports, and that the in-camera agenda of August 24, 2021 also be closed under section 91I. The receipt of advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose. So what is council's wishes? Moved by Councillor King. Seconder. Councillor Harvey. Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? And that was carried. Next item, we need to adopt some minutes from the regular open minutes from August 10th, 21, and the public hearing minutes from August 10th, 2021 as well. Moved by Councillor Bennett, second by Councillor King. Any discussion? Councillor Harvey?
Okay.
Call the question. All in favor? It's carried unanimously. No business arising from past minutes. So we're going to move right into item E on the agenda, which is a public hearing. And I'm going to start that off by reading the statement of the chair.
You're going to call the meeting to order.
Yeah. So I'm going to call the public hearing meeting to order at 2:10, approximately 2:10, on August 24th, 2021. If I pause in the middle of this, I'm looking for help to get through this. That's the first one I've ever done. So anyway, so I'll read the statement of the chair. This public hearing is convened pursuant to section 464 of the Local Government Act, RSPC, 2015, to allow the public to make representation to council respecting matters contained in a zoning amendment bylaw number 1085-138 of 2021. Every person present who believes that their interest in property is affected by the proposed bylaw shall be given a reasonable opportunity to be heard respecting matters contained in the proposed bylaw. None of you will be discouraged or prevented from making your views known. However, it is important that you restrict your remarks to matters contained in the proposed bylaw. If you wish to speak once it is time for the public representation and are attending in person, please proceed to the microphone and commence your remarks by clearly stating your name and address. If you wish to speak and are attending attending virtually, please virtually raise your hand. If you are unsure how to do so, you can find the information on the town's website, cilios.ca. It will be your turn to speak once your name and phone number has been called. Your microphone will be unmuted and you may commence your remarks by clearly stating your name and address. Once you have finished speaking, the microphone will be muted. If they wish, members of council may ask you questions following your presentation. However, the function of council at this public hearing is to listen to you rather than to debate the merits of the proposed bylaw. In accordance with council procedure bylaw, presentations by members of the public shall be limited to a maximum of 5 minutes each. If a person has additional information that they are unable to provide within that time frame, they shall be given further opportunity to address council after all other interested members of the public have been heard the first time. Please refrain from applause or other expressions of emotion during this public hearing so that we may ensure an impartial hearing as possible. After this public hearing is adjourned, council members will not speak to the public on this matter until after the matter has been dealt with at the public meeting. After this public hearing has concluded, council may, without further notice, give whatever effect council believes proper to the representations made at this hearing. Our corporate officer is going to do the confirmation of advertising and the posting requirements.
So notice of the public hearing was given in accordance with the Local Government Act and Community Charter by distributing the notice as follows. Publishing in 2 consecutive editions of the Times Chronicle on August 11th, 2021 and August 18th of 2021. Placing the notice on the bulletin boards in the town office and the Planning and Development Services Department on August 11th, 2021. Posting the notice on the town's website on August 11th of 2021 and distributing via e-news on August 11th of 2021. And the notices were mailed out on August 11th, 2021 and hand delivered within a 60-meter radius on August 11th of 2021.
Thank you. So we're going to move down to the agenda and we're going to look to our Director of Planning to give us a report and a summary of this bylaw.
Thank you, Mayor Rhodes. Thank you again. So this public hearing is in consideration of a proposal for 5816 51st Street, wherein the applicant is proposing to add self-storage warehouse to this as a site-specific use on an M3 zone. The property is owned by Mr. Ingentron and Ms. Schraller, and the applicant is Sterling Pacific Holdings. Now, if adopted, this bylaw would allow for self-storage warehouse to be added to this specific property. And self-storage warehouse, as defined in our zoning bylaw, means a multi-tenanted building for the indoor storage of personal or business items, not including industrial or toxic materials. So the property is located within the M3 Special Industrial Zone, and the applicant again is proposing to build this self-storage facility. Policy content: the subject property has a general commercial designation in the OCP, and the proposed commercial use, therefore, of the property for self-storage warehouse is in conformance with the long-term goals of the official community plan, and no amendment to the OCP is required. And although the M3 Special Industrial Zone is not aligned with the OCP, the designation in which is general commercial, the area is central to the seasonal and temporary tourist population. It also provides a good site for a mix of commercial uses. Staff are recommending approval of the proposed text amendment, as the proposed use of the site and the design of the project is a good fit for the neighborhood. And council will recall that since the adoption of the zoning bylaw, commercial uses have been added to this zone as follows. In 2002, restaurant was added as a permitted use, and more recently in 2016, craft distillery with tasting rooms and commercial sales was also added. So implications for the community: the proposed improvements to the property will contribute to the aesthetic upgrading of the area. Organizationally, the preliminary development proposal package was forwarded to outside agencies following council's acceptance of the application and first and second reading of the bylaw. And the Ministry of Transportation and Infrastructure has granted preliminary approval. That took place on July 30th. Now, a notice of development sign, of course, was posted on the property, and notification was mailed and hand delivered to persons within a 60-meter radius. And also the notice was placed on the town's notice board and published in the town chronicle on August 11th and the 18th. Now, there are no implications to the town's budget associated with this proposed rezoning. And significant dates, again, the report to council for final adoption will include the required form and character development permit. But as noted previously, pretty much everything that's required for that is in this package today. I have since received the landscape plan as well. Now, the property is located within a municipally serviced area, which complies with our long-term sustainability plan. And I'll just leave it for council at this time.
Okay, thank you very much. And so I guess we'll move into the next part of it, and that's to ask for the first time.
Oh, well, just confirm that there was no correspondence received. on
Right.
this zoning.
Yeah. We'll start right in front of me. Thank you very much. So I'll confirm that the town did not receive any correspondence on this zoning amendment. And so I'll ask for the first time if anyone wished to speak to this application.
Is that the applicant?
Yep, one of the second one.
So the applicant, if it is, they do have an opportunity to speak.
So Mayor Rhodes, you can ask if the applicant wishes to speak.
Okay, we noticed that the applicant is on the list there. Does the applicant wish to speak?
If so, you just need to virtually raise your hand. If not,
Just text you.
Yeah, seeing no response, I will ask for a second time if anyone wished to speak to this application. Seeing none, I will ask for the third and final time, if anyone wished to speak to this application. Okay, so we've commenced that business. I'll ask for a motion to close the public hearing. Councillor King, Councillor Harvey. Any discussion at all? Part of this public hearing adjourned. All in favor? Okay. I will declare this public hearing closed. Adjourned. That's not on there. Actually says adjourned.
Is that- Oh, I forgot to do that.
Next agenda item is a development variance permit.
no,
We've scheduled the bylaw that we just had the public hearing for is on the agenda for third.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
So that is not in my package here. So we would look to our director of planning.
Sure.
Review that again for us.
Thank you, Mayor Rhodes. So having just held the public hearing and not hearing any conversation about this, I would recommend to council that they consider granting third reading to zoning amendment filing number 1085.138 2021.
Okay, Councillor King,
I'll make a motion to get third reading to bylaw number 1085.1.38 221.
okay, seconder for that. Councillor Bennett. Any discussion or questions? I'll call the question. All in favor? And that is carried. Next item on the agenda is yet again another report from our director of planning. So this is a development variance permit. And I know that because it's the second time I've said that. And the permit number is 21-03.
So thank you very much. So my report today is in consideration of development variance permit 21-03 and would apply to properties located at 10129 74th and 10105 74th, being phases 2 and phase 3 of the Metal Art Plan area. So the purpose of this report is to provide information to council regarding this proposed variance, which if approved, would allow for a reduction in the dedicated road width of urban local roads in these particular two subdivisions from 16 to 15 meters. Now, as previously discussed, this doesn't affect the actual travel portion of the road, so it's just the a span under which all the utilities must be located. So again, these properties are within the town of Sioux's southeast Metal Art Plan area, and phase 1 of the plan was actually developed by the town and provided a site plan for the town, a site rather for the town of Sioux's Fire Hall and the first 25 lots in the area. Now, at the time of subdivision of phase 1, the town determined that the underground utilities could be accommodated within a right of way, which had a reduced width of 1 meter from 16 to 15 meters. So included within your package is a schematic drawing, which is taken from page 147 of the town of Sioux subdivision development servicing bylaw number 1100, 1998, which illustrates the dedicated right of way for an urban local road as 16 meters. And then of course, the drawing that's included in the report to council dated today shows a proposed cross section. So the rationale for support, staff support the variances. This will allow for phases 2 and 3 of the Middle Earth Plan area to be constructed to the same standards as phase 1. And moreover, the travel portion of the road will remain as per the town's schematic drawn at 8 meters. So implications for the community in accordance with community council policy and considering development variance permits. Council shall provide opportunity for members of the public to submit written comments, and none were received. Organizationally, additional tasks would be to ensure that the approved engineering drawings comply with the required standards and there's no impacts to the town's budget. And then as per the town of Sioux's land use procedures bylaw, a sign was erected on the subject property. Notices were mailed and delivered to all properties in 60 meters. And I did not receive any phone calls or inquiries with respect to this proposed variance. Now, the options before council are: number 1, council authorizes issuance of development variance permit 21-03, or council denies issuance of development permit 21-03. And staff are recommending option 1, that is to authorize issuance of development variance. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Director McKay. Any discussion or questions? Or we look for a motion? So what are council's wishes?
I'll move option 1, the council authorize issuance of development variance permit number 21-03.
Do we have a seconder for that? Councilor Harvey. And I'll ask once again, any questions or discussion? Seeing none, question, all in favor? Carried. So we have no petitions and no delegations today. I guess we'll move right into water matters. For District 89 financial accounts. And I guess I'll just read the report. This report on expenditures from accounts payable for water counselors and council to receive for information purposes. The overview of water district cash requirements for August 24, 2021 are in the amount of $46,838.93. And we have a couple of options.
I'll move it.
Okay, so moved, seconder, Councilor Marrar. Any discussion or anything? Question, Councilor King?
Yeah, I have a question. I don't know if Mr. Chabot can answer it. But when you look down the list there, it says Brennan Tank Canada. They received their discount of $3,500. I'm just trying to understand. They give us a check back?
Be a deposit on container?
Maureen. Thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? That's carried. Next item on our agenda is a report from our Director of Operational Services. And we're looking to award a contract for water supply from Cio Report to the Holiday Inn.
Thank you, Your Worship. Report before you in regards to a contract award for water supply line under Osoyoos Lake from Cio Park to Holiday Inn. The report recommends the town of Osoyoos enter into a contract with Mike Johnson Excavating for the works outlined in the tender document, which I'll briefly mention below. For water supply line between Cio Park and Holiday Inn for the amount of $678,904, including applicable taxes. Mike Johnson was the lowest bid of two bidders. The Hall Constructors Corp out of Kelowna was the second bid at $680,112.30. This project will consist of 180 meters of 350 millimeter diameter and 450 millimeter HDPE water line under the lake, all applicable and associated tie-ins, as well as compliance with environmental monitoring and archaeological requirements as needed. Recommendation for council is a contract for the construction of the water supply main, Cio Park to Holiday Inn, be awarded to Mike Johnson Excavating in the amount of $678,904.80, and the staff and signatories be authorized to enter the contract for the works specified in the tender documents.
Thank you very much. Is there any questions? We've already had.
Jared, because of what's happened in regards to the water Silvertone, I have to ask, to the best of your knowledge, is this water line going to last the community like 20 or 30 or 40 years in star's capacity?
That's another good question, Councilman Appleby. I honestly can't answer that. Usually designed is between 50 and 100 years. The 450 main will be used as a raw water line for our future for treatment. The 350 is to provide redundancy for existing main that hangs off the bridge deck. Capacity wise, I'd have to get that answer for you.
Well, I've been talking to our fire chief in one of my other capacities, and from what I hear, we have some pinch points, as he calls it, as far as water flow is concerned. And I'm wondering, is this going to alleviate some of our problems down the road, or is it going to make problems down the road if we have to have more water either east or west of that location?
This is a key aspect of trying to address some of our water capacity issues. This will not solve it for the entire future. There will probably be a need for a reservoir on the east side eventually, at the necessary capacities for fire protection. Right now, this will help in the short term, but the long term will be addressed in a water capital plan that we need to build in order to make sure that the future is what it needs to be.
Thanks. I guess.
All right, Councillor King.
Well, thank you, Mayor. I guess if this got passed, this construction would start right away. It seems like it's got a closing date to finish by December 3rd. Seems pretty ambitious.
It is very ambitious, Councillor King. We are anticipating probably a mid-September start. So there would be activity at the far south end of Cio by mid-September.
Okay, so it wouldn't impact the road whatsoever.
No, this is strictly directional drilling related. Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions? I have one. That we resolved all of our issues with UIB regarding this. I know there was some at the
We
beginning.
received a letter from the OIB in support of this project.
Seeing no further questions, so there are council's wishes. If I could just ask a question, do the water councils participate in the
Yes.
vote? Okay. There are council's wishes. We have,
I'll move the recommendation for the construction of the water supply main Cio Park to Holiday Inn be awarded to Mike Johnson Excavating in the amount of $678,904.80. And that staff and signatories be authorized to enter in contract for the work specified in the tender documents.
Thank you. Second for that. Councilor Bennett. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? That's carried. We don't have any finished business and no correspondence. Next agenda item is from our Director of Community Services regarding the Desert Park Exhibition Society and our partner agreement.
Thank you, Your Worship. Council authorized giving notice of their intent to enter into a partnering agreement with the Desert Park Exhibition Society for the purpose of providing equestrian and related recreational activities as described in the agreement at the July 27th regular meeting of council. Staff advertised this notice in the local newspaper on August 4th and August the 11th, and also posted on the public notice board at the town office. The subject property is legally described as PID 007-643-390-991. I will just leave it at that. In the past, there has been a major problem related to derelict trailers that created an unsightly environment. Since the new board was in place, they have removed these types of trailers and have made improvements to the aesthetics surrounding the RV sites. There had also been an issue of long-term occupancy of those sites that has been addressed. During negotiations with Desert Park Exhibition Society, this was discussed in detail. As such, there is no residential tenancy agreement, and the society has been advised to mitigate any attempts for permanent residency. There are a number of suggestions that can be implemented, such as fees based on daily rates rather than monthly rates, and limiting the amount of time an RV site can be occupied. Desert Park Exhibition Society current license to occupy expires on December 5th, 2021. Staff has met with the society to renegotiate a new agreement. The issues with the infrastructure, including water, sewer, and electrical, warranted a more detailed discussion of how the society would operate and how the infrastructure would be remedied. These improvements are estimated at approximately $193,000 and were going to be sourced from water and sewer reserve funds. This is currently in our 2021 budget and has been approved, subject to a new agreement being authorized. Notable changes include a partnering agreement would need to be instituted rather than a license of occupation due to the limited commercial activity on site, a longer term of 10 years, repayment of the improvements, 75% to the society, 25% to the town over a 20-year period. The ability for the society to rent out RV sites for other events, but in priority for equestrian related use. And finally, a meeting will be conducted annually to review the agreement between the town and the society to ensure compliance. The current RV sites are in need of repair as two of the site's sewer services are not operational and the infrastructure needs to be upgraded and renewed. The society relies on the income generated from these rentals, and without this source of income, the society would not stay operational. Staff has confirmed the expense and the design with True Engineering. The site layout will include new services for water, sewer, and electrical. Once completed, the RV sites will be an improvement that will last for many years. The RV site improvements will include the creation of 3 additional sites that will assist the society in raising revenues to operate and maintain Desert Park. After 20 years, assuming an additional 10-year partnering agreement is entered into with the society, the town will retain ownership of the improvements and they will continue to have economic value to the town and the operator of Desert Park. In terms of implications for the community, an improvement in terms of the aesthetics and an opportunity to showcase and expand on equestrian and non-equestrian events for locals and visitors. Organization, staff involvement with discussions and acting as the liaison with the town and Desert Park Exhibition Society. The budget is estimated a maximum expense of $193,000, 75% to the society for a total cost of $144,750 amortized over 20 years. Significant dates: current license of occupation expires on December 5th. Due to the scope of the project and the immediate nature to move forward, the draft agreement has a start date of September 1st, 2021. This should enable the infrastructure renewal to take place before thoroughbred training season at Desert Park and starts through the end of the year. And sustainability. These improvements will result in a sustainable and long-term asset that the town can enjoy for many years. The options before council. For council to also authorize and approve the signatories to sign the partnering agreement between the town of Vesuvius and Desert Park Exhibition Society for a 10-year term commencing September 1st, 2021 and ending on August 31st, 2031 at the rate of $1 a year plus an additional $603.13 per month for the purpose of carrying on equestrian and related recreational activities, including horse training, equestrian events, and boarding of horses, and the daily rental of RV parking stalls, primarily in association with equestrian activities at the site to meet the society's obligations under the agreement. Option number 2, for council to direct staff to make changes to the partnering agreement and bring back at a later time. And option number 3, for council not to approve the partnering agreement at this time. And the recommendation is option number 1. And the opportunity to partner with the society and improve the RV sites will enhance Desert Park and showcase this unique equestrian facility for horse enthusiasts, residents, and visitors.
Well, thank you very much. I'm going to ask, is there any questions or discussions? Councilor King?
Yeah, I'd like to ask some questions today. If this was to move forward, this would be tendered out, or the town would be the responsibility to oversee this project?
Yes.
Thank you.
Any other questions or concerns or comments? Councilor King?
Yeah, I'll move up to number 1.
We have a seconder for that. Councilor Harden. I'll ask again, is there any further discussion or comments? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? And that's carried. Don't go too far.
So that go out right away.
Yeah, I think we'd probably get our purchasing agent to work on the tender documents almost immediately. Yeah. Try to get the work completed.
Yeah, before the fall. Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is general debt payroll and Sunball Arena financial accounts. Number to report on expenditures from accounts payable and payroll information for council to receive for information purposes. In the overview, general Sunball Arena cash requirements and net payroll accounts to August 24th, 2021. Representing balances of the following funds in the amount of general cash requirements, $562,000. Let's try that again. $562,402.35. Sunbow cash requirements, $2,754.35. And our net payroll accounts, $129,832.33. And we have a couple of options in front of us. Councilor King?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Now, can I just ask a question for just general cash requirements at 562,000? Can you tell me what that was kind of used for?
$562, is that the question? Sorry, I was reading the email.
Sorry.
Huh.
Apologies.
There was nothing extraordinary in that. It was the usual payments and remittances, receiver general, utility accounts, operating supplies, and awful lot of the expenditures related to capital projects tied back to public works.
Okay.
The majority of it, there would have been a bit of a payment to TwinCon probably for the water district. I don't have the details. You don't? If you wanted specifics,
Not necessary, no, I thought it seemed like a big number for 1 month.
it's pretty usual, actually. That's dropped back to a more normal amount. No,
Okay.
2 weeks ago, we had $2 million was the general cash requirement. But that included remittances to the regional district and the
Yeah.
province for school tax. Things. Could be debt payments in there as well.
Any other questions or comments? I'll see none, we'll look for a motion based on the two options that we have in front of us. Okay, Councillor Bennett. Seconder. Councillor Harvey. Any further discussion? Call a question, all in favor? Councillor Harvey, is your hand go up? Or was it nothing? Thank you. So that was passed, so it's carried unanimously. Director Davis, you're back up again. This would be a report asking for a letter of support from the Serious Bike Club.
Thank you, Your Worship. The Cio Bike Club made a presentation this morning at the Committee of the Whole meeting. They're a nonprofit society and are active and passionate about developing trails in and around this region. In order to move forward, they are requesting a letter of support from council to start the process of sanctioning these trails. The South Okanagan Grasslands Protected Area is depicted in a shaded green below and is managed by BC Parks. The purple lines represent existing roads and double track routes that are accessible by vehicle. The green lines are easy routes, blue lines are intermediate, and the black lines represent more difficult trails. There are a number of advantages of getting the trail sanctioned, including an increase in tourism, green transportation, cultural and educational opportunities, and employment opportunities. Having a trail sanctioned could also have a direct economic impact if events are held, especially in the shoulder season. The club understands and values the importance of preserving and maintaining these delicate trails and want to endorse the healthy benefits that will be beneficial to all users. This might also provide town staff with an opportunity to discuss trail connections and destinations within town. The community implications, the economic benefits, increased recreation opportunities, cultural and environmental education benefits, significant dates. The request to the BC Parks and the Nature Conservancy of Canada will be reviewed this fall. So they would like the letter of support ASAP. And sustainability sanctioning will assist the protection and management of these trails for many years. The options before council. First one, for council to approve a letter of support to the Cio Bike Club in their quest to get the bike trails indicated on their proposal sanctioned. Or option number two, for council not to support a letter of support at this time. And the recommendation is option number one.
Thank you, Director Davis. Yeah, we did receive a delegation this morning in our committee of the whole meeting, and it went into fairly good detail about what their desires are and everything down there. And I found it particularly interesting that these trails likely can be used on a year-round basis. It was a good presentation. They were quite enthusiastic, had quite an appetite to move forward with it. And yeah, so does council have any questions or comments or anything? Councilor Bennett?
I'll move option one.
Seconder? Councilor Harvey? Any discussion at all on the motion? Seeing none, I'll ask the question. All in favor? That's carried unanimously. We're going to move into some bylaws. First one on the agenda is a report, first report on the first reading for bylaw number 1375. Be our director of planning and development services. Did I miss one? Yeah, it's a good thing I apologize in advance. Sorry about that. Yeah, our first report would be from Mr. Zakala, Director of Financial Services, and that's our permissive tax exemption bylaw 1373, 2021.
So before council, permissive tax exemption bylaw 1373/2021. This is for council to renew their permissive tax exemption bylaw under section 224 of the community charter. Each year, council updates their permissive tax exemption bylaw, which is adopted no later than October 31st each year. This tax exemption bylaw would take effect for the 2022 tax year. The properties included in this permissive tax exemption bylaw are the Osuis Curling Club Society, Lake Osuis Sailing Club, Osuis Golf Club, Osuis Senior Center Association, the Osuis Museum Society, Osuis Arts Council, Osuis Portuguese Canadian Cultural Society, Desert Park Exhibition Society, Destination Osuis Development Society, the Osuis Pyramid Corporation Limited, which is for boat trailer parking, Lawrence Integrum, and that's our Osuis Fire Hall number 2, Desert Sun Counseling Center, the Osuis Lodge 436 of the Elks of Canada, Canadian Legion Branch 173, the Synod of the Diocese of Kootenai Anglican, Grace Lutheran Church, the Osuis United Church, the Osuis Christian Center, the President of the Lethbridge Stake, trustees of the Osuis Congregational Baptist Church, and Roman Catholic Bishop of Nelson. There are no changes to the properties included in bylaw 1373/2021, and notice will be published in the Osuis Times for the estimated 2022 permissive tax exemptions in September 2nd and September 9th issues. Implications under community, continuation to provide permissive tax exemptions by updating and renewing the permissive tax exemption bylaw. Organizationally, no changes. Budget, no changes. Significant dates, bylaw needs to be adopted no later than October 31st, as per section 224 of the community charter. Sustainability allows nonprofit organizations and places of public worship to continue to provide services to the town of Osuis community. So options before council. Option number 1, to give first readings to permissive tax exemption bylaw 1373/2021. Option 2, to make further changes to bylaw 1373/2021 and bring forward to the next regular meeting of council. Or option 3, to refer back to staff for additional information. So at this time, we would be recommending option number 1 to council.
Thank you very much, Director Zacco. Is there any questions or comments? Councilor King.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I guess just going down the list, just for the public, the president of the Lethbridge State, could you kind of give us what that is?
That is it's one of the churches in town. I'm not sure which one. But it would be one of them.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, yeah. Okay.
Any other questions for Director Zacco? Seeing none, now we're Councilor Williams. Councilor King,
Yeah, I'll move option 1, get first 3 readings.
have a second. Councilor Bennett. Any further discussion? We'll call a question. All in favor? That's carried unanimously. Thank you. Well, when you go over them the first time, the second time you come to them, it makes it a lot easier to move forward with it. Our next report is from our Director of Planning and Development Services. And this is report 1, the first reading of bylaw number 1375. And it's part of the town of Osuis.
Thank you, Mayor Rhodes, and this is the stuff for planners, that dreams are made of. So here we are from a long way from 2018, we embarked on the comprehensive review of the official community plan. Now, review the background information took place through the early part of 2019. Public consultation started in the summer of that year and extended through to 2020. Of course, we slowed the process down a little bit with the result of the pandemic, but we wrapped up again in 2021 when staff and the consultant continued to compile information gathered previously and prepared the required maps and policies. Then the draft OCP was presented to town council in April of this year and then made available to public review on our website. And in May through June, we actually held some online consultation process as well. And then you'll recall that town council reviewed the updated draft on August 10th. And then at which time senior staff and members of council made recommendations to some minor changes, and this is how we address those. So we addressed the population figures to correspond throughout the document. And also we looked at the population estimate from BC Stats for the year 2020, and we included that. Now, the OCP previously included population estimates up to 2019, but we adjusted that because of course 2020. These changes did result in amendments to population projections to the year 2040, and that is in section 3 of the official community plan. And then the did you know call-out box from the settlement history piece, which is also in section 3, was updated to clarify the definition of soft fruits, which was brought up at our meeting. Maps 6 and 7 showing the town's existing water and sewer servicing infrastructure systems were revised to remove service areas that are not within the town boundaries. And then section 7K1 infrastructure contact was also amended by adding the following statement. That is the town's existing water and sewer servicing infrastructure systems are shown on the maps respectfully. With the exception of town water, sewer, and agriculture servicing infrastructure, which extends outside of the town boundary in some areas. Hazard areas flood management map 13 was updated to include the most recent floodplain hazard data from the Okanagan Basin Water Board. And then the section on environmentally sensitive development permit areas was also updated the guidelines by adding the following. A statement that actions to rehabilitate and restore any environmentally sensitive areas to an enhanced ecological state are encouraged on sites that have been subject to negative impacts as a result of past development practices. Now, fortunately, within our community, we do not have a lot of properties that would be subject to that, but it's good that we have it in there. Implications, of course, for the community, consistent, clear, and effective regulations and policies contribute to achieving our community objectives and visions. Organizationally, section 475 of the Local Government Act stipulates that during the development of official community plan, the proposal local government must provide one or more opportunities it considers appropriate for consultation, and this must be in addition to the public hearing, and that is consider whether opportunities for consultation would need to be early and ongoing, and consider whether consultation is required with the board or regional districts, the board of any regional district that is adjacent to our regional district, the council of any municipality that is adjacent to the area covered, First Nations, boards of education, graded boards and improvement district boards, and of course the provincial federal governments and their agencies. And the town did carry out an extensive consultation process. Details of that process are also aligned in the town's new OCP, and I can assure you that I did meet with representatives of the school board and staff at Flinrod, and also spoke with First Nations in our area, and staff at regional district level, and of course we'll be referring the draft or the bylaw for the first reading of it as well. Now, there are no impacts to the budget associated with this report, and that further the adoption of an OCP does not commit a local government to proceed with any works or projects that are mentioned in the plan. So the adoption of an OCP must also follow section 477 of the Local Government Act. Therefore, after first reading of the bylaw, the plan will be considered in conjunction with the town's official community, or pardon me, the town's financial plan and any waste management plans that may be applicable. The OCP will then be referred to the ALC, that is Agricultural Land Commission. Sustainability, long-term environmental sustainability of Sluice Lake is a primary concern of our integrated community sustainability plan, and that will also is also reflected in the OCP. And we'll be talking a little bit more about that when we update our foreshore and zoning bylaw. Options before council today. Option 1 in 2 parts. A, the official community plan bylaw number 1375 be read the first time, and B, that council authorize staff to proceed with referring the OCP to the ALC as per section 477 of the Local Government Act, and to persons, organizations, and authorities outlined in section 475 of the Local Government Act, or option 2, that council request additional information prior to proceeding, and staff are recommending option 1.
Thank you very much. It's been a long haul.
Yeah,
Not the word. here finally.
Mhm.
So, is there any questions or comments? Councillor King.
Thank you, Rick. First of all, I really want to thank the staff and Miss McKay for the long hours I'm sure she's put in and driving herself a little crazy back and forth, making this complete and bringing it up date. I really want to thank you on behalf of Maureen, myself, and the rest of the council. And with that, I'll definitely move option one.
We're looking for two different,
Yes.
yeah, so we do want.
28. Council, give first reading.
Seconder for that. Councillor Harvey. Any comments towards that motion? Call the question, all in favor? And that's carried unanimously.
Thank you.
And we also have a part B. Anybody wishing to do that?
Let's stop it here.
Councillor Bennett is making that motion. Have seconded.
Yeah.
Councillor King. Any discussion or comments regarding that motion?
Yeah.
Councillor King.
What's the timeline, Ms. McKay? I'm hoping to get that back.
Well, we're coming back very, very quickly, so council meeting near you. We actually will be here next month.
Thank you.
So again, about 30, 40 days to
Okay.
do the referral process. Thank you.
Any further discussion towards the motion? We'll call the question, all in favor? And that's carried unanimously.
I just exhaled for the first time since 2018.
We all heard that.
Thank you.
We have no new business. Is there any notice of motions? And we have no committee reports. We'll move right into the CAO report.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just a few items very briefly. Director of Corporate Services and I have been working on developing a draft communicable disease exposure control plan, the latest greatest requirement for organizations in the province of British Columbia required by Work Safe BC. Our occupational health and safety consultant has been helping us with it. Be able to present it to the Joint Occupational Health and Safety Committee, to directors, and subsequently to council shortly. But as you all know now, we've returned back to more or less step 2 of the BC Restart Plan. Masks required in all city facilities and public indoor spaces again. It was originally going to be just through interior health, but earlier today, the province declared that would be in effect for the entire province of British Columbia in response to recent outbreaks of COVID-19, particularly the Delta variant. So we've still got a COVID-19 exposure control plan as well, remains in effect. Staff are still doing a self-assessment health check every day before commencing their duties. So we continue to watch that world unfold. In other news, I've been working on a draft a procedure and guidelines for reports to council that's going to set out for the staff, primarily the directors who write reports, sort of the structure and the format and the type of content we're looking for with respect to council reports, so that we ensure that they remain consistent and provide information that council deems valuable. So right now we're working on updating the timelines for submission of reports, trying to adjust that. And then once that's complete, I'll just present it to council for information so you can see and know what you'll be looking at, because the structure will change slightly. I was working on guidelines in an application process for the resort development strategies, visitor activity enhancement program area, which is festivals and events, and in particular encouraging shoulder season, off-season festivals and events, because until very recently, it looked like we were going back to normal and we were reopening. We're supposed to go to step 4 on September the 7th. And so I was going to invite applications for funding either for later this year or for sometime next year. And council would have decided then on what to award the funding in the resort development strategy for. But given the return to step 2, I did put that on hold for right now. There's no sense inviting and paying amounts to people for events that we may or may not have. I see other news in other communities of canceling planned events and not funding things because of this uncertainty that continues. Further community services, the immunization clinic, the COVID clinic at the Sonora Community Center has now been closed. It's being relocated to the health center, and the health center is on
89,
89th Street, or
Mondays and Wednesdays.
Mondays and Wednesdays, okay, thank you. Community services had summer camps despite COVID, and they did a good job. Everything was sold out. Strong demand for programs and services, which leads us into the fact that the Fall Leisure Guide is now available, and registration for fall events can begin on September the 13th. We anticipate there'll be a lot of people with questions of the staff over in community services about what's possible, what does this look like. So again, DC Recreation Parks Association working on clarifying the impacts of the current state of things to make sure we're on side. There's been new gazebos at the splash park and the dog park, which are now complete or near complete. Provide needed shade for people using those areas. Elections Canada has booked the Sonora Community Center for advanced polls on September 10th to the 13th, and for the general federal election on Monday, September 20th. It'll all be here before we know it. So, September 10th to 13th to be voting. Seems pretty quick. Yeah. So, corporate services, Director Elson's been busy with the usual HR matters, doing a good job of keeping things on track there. Coordinating the work of our occupational health and safety consultant and some staff training coming up next month. Preparing an RFP for the provision of real property insurance. It's been about 5 years since it was last tendered. And so we're going to go out to the market and see what it tells us. You know more about insurance than most of us ever will. It's found to be a bit of an adjustment here with what's been going on in the world.
Yeah, big documents.
Yeah. Financial services deadline for rural water is coming past, and when I got the information for this report, we've been 83.8% collected to date, which is slightly above the usual amount on that date. The town got an extra $269,000 in change in gas tax funding from the UECM as a one-time payment. And that money was directed towards Cadet Drive, Jubilee Drive, and Valiant Lane project. When this was written, there was 3 pending tax sale properties. I believe it's down to 1. Now, we hope to usually clean those up and not have to put properties up for sale, for tax sale. Staff work really hard with the owners. Fire department, we've got another firefighter, Dustin Carell, has completed his NFPA 1001, firefighter 1 and 2 training. So another success over there. They're notching it off. And then other news, the department's losing one of its paid on call volunteers, firefighter Sarah Lambert. But the good news side of it is that she's going on to full-time employment as a City of Richmond firefighter. So the value of our training shows through, right? People that aspire to a career in the fire service can find that we can get them in a place where they can be successful in those paid departments. And best luck to her for her new career. It's fantastic. The OCP was read the first time today, and an RFP for zoning bylaw update is already in the works. Going through the other things to do. The beaches have been a little bit slower for bylaw this time of year, probably on account of the smoke and not being as nice to be outside in the air with what we've had recently. Kind of it's cleared up again a little bit, so it's nice to have some fresh air to breathe. Dealing with a lot of unsightly complaints, the lack of precipitation has caused weeds to grow and not much else. So we're working on those. Building permit values are up around $21 million so far. Operational services is working on preparing their capital budgets and plans, submitting grants for active transportation planning. Council just approved the water main crossing, the directional drill under the Soyuz Lake to improve capacity and reliability of water supply outside of the lake. Working on a review of needed upgrades for water and sewer facilities that utilize chlorine gas. And you're gonna see some capital budget reports regarding those items, probably for next year, because it's quite important that we get on side with regulations and requirements for those things. I guess we're continuing on with new scale and office trailer design and procurement, and you hope to have that done by year end, or no, it'll be sometime next year.
Yep.
Okay. Thanks, sorry, that was more than a little bit.
That's your report?
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Cio Report. So we need a motion to receive that report. Councilor Bennett, seconded. Councilor Harvey, all in favor? Carried. We'll move right into council reports, and that Councilor Rhodes guy doesn't have anything to report, so first up would be Councilor King.
Yeah, I'll refer to Mr. Bennett.
I'll refer to Councilor Harvey.
Yeah, I have nothing to report this week.
And it's gonna be really easy because the
Back to the
mayor,
mayor's report.
You guys
Mayor
are
never-
taking off the agenda.
the mayor never gave the report, so the next item on the agenda is we're going to move into the in-camera portion of it. And I'm a little unfamiliar what to do here. Do I need to read
Yeah, we're looking for a resolution to close the meeting to the public as the subject matter being considered relates to one or more of the following. Section 91K of the community charter, negotiation related discussion respecting the proposed provision of the municipal service or its preliminary stages. The review of council could legally affect the interest in this power of the public. Section 91E, the acquisition, disposition, appropriation of land or improvements. Council considers disclosure could reasonably affect the harm interest in this municipality. Section 91C, labor relations or other employee relations, and 91I, legal matters or items.
The receipt of advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose.
There we go. If somebody wants to move that.
Thank you. So we're looking for a motion.
That's one.
Councilor King, second.